Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. We're here for the news this morning, live from my bedroom, obviously, as it is every day these days. We're going to be talking about Jack Grealish. We're also going to be talking a little bit about a potential conclusion to the Premier League season that has been discussed in recent days, that has been suggested, has been mooted, if you will, in recent days. But obviously this Grealish story needs to be discussed, doesn't it? It was sort of unfolding yesterday, and I didn't really talk about it too much, just mentioned it briefly. And then just after I finished the news video, Jack Grealish released a statement himself, and all sorts of things had to happen after that. So we're going to be getting into that story right now. So for those of you who don't know, a few days ago, Jack Grealish, I was going to say reportedly, he admitted it. Drove to his friend's house. Obviously not supposed to do that under the country. I don't know, depending on where you're from, which part, if let's say you're in America, certain parts of America I don't think are in full lockdown, or in lockdown the way that Britain is at the moment. Obviously no one's meant to leave the house for anything other than a trip to the supermarket or the shop to buy food, and for one bit of exercise a day. No socialising, no gatherings, no going around to friends' house. None of that stuff is permitted currently. And Jack Grealish, admitted and said in a video that he released yesterday that his friend invited him round, and stupidly he went round to his friend's house. So there's your first mistake. Put that on there. There's your first mistake. The second mistake was whether under the influence of alcohol or not. Who knows? Crashing your expensive Range Rover into a few people's car. That was a silly one, wasn't it? That was a silly one. And I wonder what would make someone do that. Who knows? Maybe he was just nervous because he didn't want the police to see him going to his friend's house. I don't know. There were reports, like I said, that he was under the influence of something, but I don't think that has been confirmed or anything at all. So we're not going to be saying that with any kind of assertion, or we're not. That's not part of the story as far as I'm concerned until we find out whether it is or isn't. But what we do know, he broke the law. I don't know if it's the law actually. Let me know in the comments. Is it the law that we're not allowed to leave the house? Because I know you can get fined for it for socialising and doing non-essential trips out the house. Does that mean it's the law? I guess it is the law. Yeah. So he broke the law then, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know if it counts as law. Can you bring in a law that fast? That feels scary if you can. But he clearly has made a mistake there. He's crashed his car. You've seen that picture of him with his shoe on, hanging off, and on the phone, like, I don't know. I don't even know what that picture is. But this story then comes off the back of this story. So there's your little background. The next section, so we had the main, actually what happened here. Then the next sort of layer of dust that settled on top of this story, the first layer of dust that settled on top of the Grealish story was no one's going to want to buy him now because he's an idiot. And by no one, I mean Man United aren't going to want to buy him now because he's an idiot. That was the first sort of speculatory layer of dust that gathered on this story. And you kind of think, well, it makes sense. You've got to question everything anyway. One of the things to take into account is the character of players. And that certainly seems to be something that Solskjaer values more highly, or at least is given the impression that is valued more highly under Solskjaer. The character, the willingness to be at the club, the work ethic, what they're like as people, how they get on and off the pitch. And other than attendance, well, we'll get to that actually. So that has to be taken into account. Is this man an idiot? Is this man, potentially a lawbreaker, like he's some cowboy going into a saloon and shooting the place up? You know what I'm saying? So that was the first layer of speculation that settled on this story about Jack Grealish. And the second layer, the reason I'm going with this layer, for two reasons. One is because it's more optimistic, and two is because we've had some time to see the situation, maybe to contact officials at clubs, maybe to contact the agents of players to get the actual story, rather than that speculation, which is what I didn't want to comment on yesterday, because I didn't feel as though, even though the story I'm about to quote is from the Daily Mail, who, not necessarily, it's not, Simon Stone in terms of reliability, but it's not the Daily Trout Mask or whatever they're called. So that's the reason I'm going to go with this story, and I'm going to talk about it today, because I think we've had a bit more time to kind of digest what's going on here, and hopefully the likes of who have we got here? Chris Wheeler for the Daily Mail has had time to speak to some people that may know the truth about this story and may know the truth about whether it has affected his move to Manchester United. So let's get into the story then. By the way, the Daily Mail website looks like... Do you remember what the internet looked like in 1999? Most of you won't because you weren't born. But what it looked like was a page with a tiny bit of messages on it and then loads of like moving GIFs and like little like glittery cursors flying around the screen and stuff. The Daily Mail's website has got so many adverts on it. It's like the digital equivalent of walking through like one of those busy markets. Like it's like Camden Market but online. Anyway, so if you can even read the text that's on the website, because the website is so just bogged down by ads, which, fair enough, but come on. Jack Grealish's £80 million move to Manchester United is still expected to go through this summer despite lockdown party, which, try not to make it sound so cool, Daily Mail, because lockdown party, I'm buying tickets. But the club are monitoring events with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer keen on maintaining discipline. And that's what I was alluding to before. There seems to be a slight change of tact and a sort of a realignment in terms of what things are valued highly for signings under Ole as they were under Mourinho. But yeah, Jack Grealish. Oh, first line here. Jack Grealish has jeopardised a move. Keeping us on our toes to Manchester United after allegedly crashing his car. He admitted he crashed his car. It's not allegedly anymore. Sportsmail understands that United are clear favourites to sign Grealish from Aston Villa, who he plays for now. A deal worth up to £80 million is still expected to go through in the summer. However, United will monitor events after police launched an investigation. Like it's 4, 3, 2, 1. What's the investigation going off into the sky? And it's landed on Jack Grealish's doorstep. Into the incident in a Birmingham suburb on Sunday morning. First of all, before we go into this any further, let me know in the comments whether you think the character that Jack Grealish is showing, or this event, or this story should jeopardise United's interest in Jack Grealish. Do you still want him at the club? Do you think someone that is, let's face it, joyriding around the streets, when we're supposed to be in lockdown, do you think, would you still like him at the club? Has this changed your opinion on him? Because, from the last few weeks of reporting on this story as it's been going around, most people do seem to want Jack Grealish at the club, up until now at least. Or maybe they still do. Let me know in the comments whether you think that, for you, this sort of tarnishes his reputation, and is he the sort of, one of the problems that a lot of people have had with Paul Pogba is not necessarily his performances on the pitch, which I think have been better than people make out, but the constant circus, the constant attention, the constant... Like, Graham Souness, who has been a doubter and a hater of Paul Pogba since day one, almost regardless of whether he was good or bad on and off the pitch. Whilst I almost entirely disagree with most of the points Graham Souness has made, one of the things that people don't like is the fact that there are the likes... Paul Pogba seems to get people wound up more than anyone else. And whether that's his fault or not, that does seem to be one of the things people kind of are sick of with Paul Pogba, this constant, people are always going to be negative, you always have to defend him, you always have to say this, you always have to say that, he's always in the newspapers. So maybe are we kind of looking at a second version of that with Jack Grealish? Is he someone that, he's had controversies before, he seems to have moved on. He seems to have, he's captain of Aston Villa now. He seems to have got a bit more responsibility, a bit more maturity to him. But this is definitely a lapse, at least, in that. Or maybe is this the sort of the mask slipping slightly on what is still maybe a slightly difficult character to deal with? Let me know. Someone said he's not worth 80 million. Someone says he's a wanker, but he's decent at football. Do you want him at United? Let's carry on reading the story. Let me know in the comments and I'll come back to those. He released a video basically apologising, saying how embarrassed he was, urging everyone to stay at home, that kind of thing, which, in fairness to him, is about all he can do at this point, isn't it? It is alleged that Grealish crashed his 70 grand Range Rover into parked cars in the Dickens Heath area. What, the Dickens? Of Solihull. I know if someone lives in Solihull, I'll ask him about this. Where he had been at a party hosted by former Villa teammate Ross McCormack. Imagine hosting a party. We all want to party, Ross. We're not allowed to because we'll die if we do. Hours after posting a video on Twitter telling his followers to stay home. That was silly. On Monday, so yesterday, this just after the news, we did the news yesterday, the 24-year-old issued an apology on social media for stupidly going out, and Villa confirmed their captain has been fined for breaching government guidelines. So it's guidelines, not laws. There we go. West Midlands Police hope CCTV footage will shed light on the events that led to Grealish apparently standing near the scene of the car. No way! Oh my God, why didn't they put this at the start? He was stood near his own car. Man stands near own car. West Midlands Police, hope CCTV footage will shed light on the event that led to Grealish apparently standing near the scene of the car accident on Sunday morning as he was pictured walking away before officers arrived. Unbelievable. If you ever see someone standing next to their own car, you arrest them. I give you permission to citizens arrest anyone that stands near their own car. Okay? Seems as though we're getting some sort of problems with the stream here. Hopefully that will be resurrected and fixed very soon, because I don't know what to do about that. What we got going on here? Let's keep talking as though this isn't happening, because what's going to happen is it will either fix itself or it won't. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And if it does, then I wasted time talking about it when it fixed itself anyway. Let's refresh that, see if anything seems to be working there, because we've had problems like this before, but actually it's been alright for a while, so I don't know why it's been so bloody rude now. Although that is failing to load significantly there. Let's see what we've got any problems. Anyone speaking? Anyone asking what's going on? Doesn't seem as though. Connect software through. Oh dear, this isn't good, is it? Looks as though there's been some lag or something. Very interesting, very interesting. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to finish the news, and if it works, it works, and if it don't, it don't. Because our next story today is an exciting one.